Adoption is a common concept in modern society, with adoptive families playing a crucial role in the social welfare network. It's seen as a timely shelter for orphaned children or those whose birth families can't support them, allowing these vulnerable young lives to flourish in a new environment. However, the case that Crime Documentary Files will share today reveals a dark side of adoption. It's a story of a seemingly happy family that concealed a sinister plot and a horrific tragedy. In July 2011, the city of Willoughby Hills, Ohio, was enjoying summer days with clear blue skies, white clouds, and brilliant sunshine. For Lisa and Kevin Knofel, this summer holiday held special significance as their family prepared to welcome a new member, an older sister for their two daughters. Lisa Knofel, 41, worked as a social worker at a county social services agency. Her husband Kevin, also 41, was a former firefighter now working as a truck driver for a food company. The couple married in 2005, and 4 years later, Lisa gave birth to their daughter Haley. Along with Megan, Lisa's daughter from a previous marriage, the family lived in a spacious 3-bedroom house by the Chagrin River. Friends and colleagues described the remarried couple as well-matched, sharing life goals and financial stability. To any observer, they appeared to be the picture of a happy family. In 2011, they decided to adopt Sabrina Zunick, a girl about to turn 17. Although Sabrina was older than children they had previously fostered, Lisa's extensive experience left her unfazed. She simply wanted to help children in need, supporting them as they approached adulthood. Lisa's colleagues and superiors praised her as an exceptional caregiver. At work, she excelled as a social worker in the child sexual abuse department. At home, she was a devoted mother, loved and trusted by her children. Even Sabrina, a rebellious teen with a history of drug use and run-ins with the police, began to change under Lisa's care. By the end of that year, Sabrina's teachers reported significant improvements in her academic performance and self-confidence. Sabrina's transformation delighted the family group and adoption counselors. Seeing her bond with her new sisters, playing and helping each other, many marveled at the power of love. They felt grateful that this young woman had finally found a place to belong. However, no one could have predicted that all this positivity would transform into a family nightmare in just one short year. At 1:15 a.m. on November 16, 2012, 13-year-old Megan made a frantic 911 call. Through her agonized screams, she pleaded for help, saying her mother had been attacked and was dying. The dispatcher struggled to piece together information from the chaotic call, but managed to dispatch police to Megan's home within 2 minutes. Upon arrival, officers encountered a terrified Megan running out of the house, urging them to rush inside and save her mother in the bedroom. Entering the darkened home, police heard noises from a room at the end of the hallway. With weapons drawn, they shouted for anyone inside to come out immediately. Slowly, a figure emerged from the doorway. It was Sabrina, the eldest sister. Her face was flushed, and she still clutched a nearly 16-inch knife. Without hesitation, officers subdued her with a taser. Tragically, when police entered the bedroom, they found Lisa on the floor, showing no signs of life. As officers examined Lisa's wounds, they heard faint breathing from across the room. Following the sound, they opened a closet door to discover 3-year-old Haley huddled in the corner, trembling. The scene deeply affected the responding officers. They couldn't determine how long the toddler had been hiding, but she had likely witnessed her mother's agonized cries and screams. Due to injuries on both of Sabrina's hands, police had to take her to the hospital for treatment before questioning. Meanwhile, they asked Megan about her father's whereabouts and if anyone else was in the house. Megan informed them that her dad had left for work hours earlier, and only the 3 sisters and their mother had been home during the incident. At this point, the perpetrator was clear. However, what the police needed to understand was why Sabrina had killed her adoptive mother. 10 hours after the crime, Sabrina arrived at the police station for questioning, still wearing her hospital gown. Noticing her bandaged hands, officers inquired about what had happened. Sabrina mentioned that doctors had given her 5 stitches. Naturally, the police pressed further, asking about the origin of her injuries, hoping to gauge her honesty. Unexpectedly, Sabrina immediately claimed she couldn't remember anything and didn't know how she'd been injured. She only recalled finishing her homework around midnight the previous evening and preparing for bed, but a headache prevented her from sleeping. Sabrina said she'd gone to her mother's room for ibuprofen to relieve the pain. After that, her next memory was waking up on a stretcher, being taken to the hospital. The ibuprofen Sabrina mentioned is a pain reliever, not a sleeping pill or anesthetic. Setting aside whether it could cause memory loss, the idea of losing memory for only 30 minutes to an hour is highly suspicious. Experienced detectives immediately recognized Sabrina was lying. However, instead of exposing her deception right away, they shifted to asking about her relationships with family members. Sabrina claimed she had a good relationship with her father, Kevin, but frequently argued with her mother. They had once had a fierce conflict over iPad use, resulting in Lisa calling the police to mediate. Sabrina said she always felt her mother didn't like her much, treating her differently from her sisters, and never fully accepting her. Seizing this opportunity, investigators asked Sabrina about her thoughts on her mother's death. This direct probing question was the final test of the interrogation, but Sabrina didn't budge, insisting she had no memory of the event. She even covered her bandaged hand over her mouth, feigning shock at learning of her mother's death. Sabrina's acting skills were amateurish at best, visibly awkward to observers. But as long as she persisted with her act, the police were at an impasse. The autopsy report revealed Lisa had suffered a total of 178 stab wounds. Many wounds showed signs of twisting, indicating the blade had been rotated after penetration. Forensic experts pointed out that this attack method wasn't instinctive. The perpetrator had deliberately inflicted additional pain on the victim. This horrified the police even more. They couldn't understand where an 18-year-old like Sabrina had learned such knife skills. They also couldn't comprehend why, despite being caught red-handed, Sabrina insisted on memory loss. Was she insane? Did she have a sleepwalking disorder or multiple personalities? Baffled, the police began examining Sabrina's background. They found no history of such conditions or mental disorders. But calling this girl sick wasn't entirely baseless, as her irresponsible biological parents were the biggest toxic influence in her life. Sabrina was born on October 27, 1994. Both her biological parents were heavy drug addicts. They weren't married and had no intention of raising a child. They were alcoholics who stole and sold drugs to minors. When Sabrina was just over a year old, her father was arrested for domestic violence. For the next 10 years, Sabrina lived with her grandmother. When her parents weren't incarcerated, they were there too, but rarely sober. Police were often called to settle their arguments. Neighbors repeatedly reported the father for drunk driving, making threats, and damaging property. In 2010, as Sabrina's elderly grandmother could no longer care for her teenage granddaughter, she contacted authorities to have social services take over. Before meeting the Knofels, Sabrina had been through countless foster homes. She was diagnosed with depression, bipolar disorder, ADHD, and oppositional defiant disorder. As mentioned earlier, Sabrina seemed to improve in her first few months with her adoptive family. So why did she change so drastically after just a year? Even if Sabrina had been mistreated by her adoptive mother and harbored resentment, at 18, she could have left the foster care system and this family. She could have even pursued legal action against her adoptive mother. Why choose the brutal path of killing her sister's mother, destroying her own future? After careful consideration, police concluded that Sabrina must have had a compelling motive for the crime. They quickly uncovered what it might be. Many of Lisa's friends and relatives, when interviewed by police, consistently mentioned their suspicions about Kevin, the husband. They noted his indifference to his wife's death and his haste in discarding her personal belongings the very next day. But what raised the most suspicion was Kevin's speed in filing insurance claims. Within hours of his wife's death, Kevin had contacted multiple parties to begin the life insurance payout process. Records showed that Kevin filed claims with insurance companies just 7 hours after his wife's death. This means that around 8 to 9 a.m. on the day of the crime, when the coroner might not have even completed Lisa's autopsy report, Kevin was already thinking about collecting insurance money. About 2 weeks after the incident, on December 4th, Kevin came to the police station for questioning. However, as he was accompanied by a lawyer, the entire interrogation process was far from smooth. Initially, police hoped he could explain his relationship with his wife and share his thoughts on Sabrina's motive. But the lawyer repeatedly prevented Kevin from answering questions, even stating that since the police had caught the perpetrator, Kevin didn't need to say anything more. In the following months, Kevin used $785,000 from his wife's life insurance to buy a house, a car, a boat, flying lessons, and take out a loan for home renovations and a swimming pool. He showed no concern that such lavish spending might raise suspicions. On May 9, 2013, after 6 months of silence, Sabrina finally revealed the whole truth. She agreed to meet with the prosecutor and recounted the entire background and her motive for the crime. Sabrina said that life with her foster family was initially good and smooth. However, from the 5th month onward, conflicts between her and her adoptive mother, Lisa, increased. The main reason was that she felt her mother was too strict and favored her 2 sisters. Gradually, she developed an oppositional attitude towards her mother. But Kevin, the father, was the complete opposite. He was gentle, approachable, easy to talk to, creating a sense of security. Sabrina said her relationship with Kevin began to grow closer from that point. She confided everything to Kevin, and over time, these confidences evolved into romantic feelings. In April 2012, the Knofel family went camping. Sabrina said this trip marked the beginning of intimate contact between her and Kevin. It started when Kevin complained that long drives made his thighs uncomfortable and asked Sabrina for a massage. This led to massaging other body parts. Their relationship grew increasingly inappropriate. In Sabrina's phone, Kevin's contact was saved as Kevin Love. They texted daily like a couple in love. From August 2012, Sabrina often played music for Kevin as he drove her to school. During these rides, Kevin would frequently put his hand in her pants. Sabrina believed that while Lisa, living in the same house, wasn't aware of her relationship with her adoptive father, she might have suspected something unusual. Around October, a month before the crime, her mother's attitude towards her noticeably worsened. Lisa even deliberately kept the youngest sister, Haley, away from Sabrina, not allowing them to be alone together. Sabrina said she was close to her younger sister, so this hurt her deeply. Simultaneously, Kevin began complaining to her, saying his relationship with his wife had deteriorated and he was considering divorce. But divorce meant alimony payments and child custody issues. He expressed feeling devastated, uncertain about his post-divorce life. It was at this point that Kevin painted a rosy picture and planted the idea of killing her adoptive mother in Sabrina's mind. Kevin said if his wife disappeared, all problems would be solved. Not only would he avoid alimony, but he'd also receive a huge insurance payout. Then, Sabrina could officially become his partner, living happily with the youngest daughter. He proposed several methods for the murder, such as hiring a hitman or staging a car accident. But concerned for the safety of the 2 younger sisters, they ultimately decided Sabrina would do it, staging it as a robbery homicide to cover their tracks. Why Sabrina, and not Kevin? Kevin explained that Sabrina had just reached adulthood and had special circumstances, so even if caught, a judge would reconsider. She might face only 2 to 5 years in prison. If she could endure that period, life after release would be happy. The cruelty of this idea is obvious to anyone with a conscience. But Sabrina couldn't think that far ahead. She had 2 main reasons. First, in October 2012, she would turn 18, meaning her foster care would end. To stay with the family, she'd need to apply for extended care benefits. Lisa had firmly refused this, hoping Sabrina would leave. Second, Kevin had said that after divorce, he'd have nothing left and life would be miserable. Rather than endure that, he'd rather end his life. Kevin's suicide threat backed Sabrina into a corner. If she didn't want to lose her lover and everything else, she felt compelled to act. One way or another, either she or her mother had to go. In the early hours of November 16th, after finishing her homework, Sabrina sent a final text to Kevin. She then went to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and crept into her mother's room. Sabrina said she initially thought it would be like a ninja movie. One quick stab, and her mother would pass peacefully in her sleep. She planned to stage the room to look like a break-in, leading everyone to believe her mother was killed by a burglar, with no suspicion falling on her. But Sabrina was gravely mistaken. At the first stab, her mother immediately woke up screaming and fighting back. Even though Sabrina twisted the knife as Kevin had taught her to inflict more damage, her mother wouldn't die. She said her sister Megan tried to intervene, but Sabrina pushed her away and continued stabbing until her mother stopped responding. Afterward, Sabrina stuck to the script, claiming memory loss. She thought everything would unfold as Kevin promised. She was young. A few years in prison seemed manageable. Kevin would always be there, loving and waiting for her release to reunite. But over the past 6 months, Sabrina said all those promises evaporated. First, her lawyer told her that if convicted, she could face the death penalty or life in prison. Moreover, Sabrina discovered Kevin was completely indifferent to her fate. He never visited her in jail, sent her money, or even made a phone call or wrote a letter. So when Sabrina learned Kevin had received the insurance money and was living comfortably, her heart shattered. She realized she was just a foolish pawn, discarded after serving her purpose. Sabrina's confession confirmed the suspicions long held by the police, family, and friends. Consequently, on August 8, 2013, prosecutors decided to charge Kevin with 6 counts of sexual battery and 5 counts of conspiracy to commit aggravated murder. The next day, Kevin was arrested. During interrogation, he showed little emotion. When police tried to question him about his relationship with Sabrina, he remained silent. Since Sabrina had reached an agreement with prosecutors and agreed to testify about Kevin's involvement in the crime, Kevin Knofel's trial was set to begin on May 29, 2014. The prosecution's stance was to accuse Kevin of manipulating Sabrina into killing his wife to collect a large insurance payout. Kevin's ability to persuade Sabrina stemmed from their sexual relationship. During the 9-day trial, police called numerous witnesses. Among the most compelling were Sabrina's adoption social worker, her school teacher, and her classmate. The social worker reported receiving an unexpected call from Kevin a month before the murder, inquiring whether the family's adoption license was registered under both spouses' names or just his. Kevin claimed he was having marital problems and wanted to know if he could continue being Sabrina's adoptive father in case of divorce. Sabrina's school teacher testified to seeing Sabrina sitting on Kevin's lap at school, finding their gestures overly intimate. This was corroborated by Sabrina's classmate, who reported hearing Sabrina and Kevin flirting and making sexually suggestive jokes. Moreover, a month before the crime, Sabrina had told her friend she wanted to help Kevin get rid of his wife. The prosecution also presented 2 pieces of evidence proving Kevin and Sabrina's relationship was more than just adoptive father and daughter. Phone records from November 1, 16, the day of the murder, showed 1,491 calls and text messages between them. In contrast, Kevin and his wife only exchanged 201 communications during the same period. Police also reported that on the night before the murder, from 7 p.m. to 12:48 a.m., Kevin and Sabrina exchanged 78 text messages. However, when police tried to extract the content of these messages from Kevin's phone, they discovered all messages had been deleted. Additionally, police found messages Lisa sent to her husband, potentially proving she suspected something inappropriate. One message sent on November 10, 2012 read, "Cut off that damn connection. You spend too much time with her. You've never spent this much time with your real family." Another message from October 3, 2012 said, "I don't see what's so funny here, but clearly, you care more about Sabrina's affairs than how my day went." These witnesses and evidence supported the prosecution's argument. However, The most crucial witness appeared on the fifth day of the trial, June 5, 2014, when Sabrina herself took the stand. She recounted the entire story of her relationship with Kevin to the jury, explaining in detail how they planned her mother's murder. Sabrina said Kevin initially asked her to use a gun for the murder, thinking it would be quicker and more like a robbery. A week before the crime, they planned to visit a shooting range to practice. However, Lisa prevented this outing, saying she didn't want them going out alone. Lisa and Kevin then argued about this. Unable to learn how to use a gun, they ultimately switched to using a knife. Sabrina said Kevin taught her the most effective way to stab, demonstrating it on the witness stand. Sabrina broke down crying on the stand, moving many in the courtroom to tears. However, in the defense lawyer's eyes, this was just a staged performance to gain leniency. The defense argued that Sabrina was genuinely ill. Her traumatic childhood made her crave love to the point of madness, causing her to fall in love with her adoptive father, who treated her well, and imagine a romantic relationship with him. The biggest obstacle in this relationship was her adoptive mother, so she decided to act before being kicked out of the family. In short, the defense portrayed Sabrina as a deranged individual who, after committing the crime and being caught, was dissatisfied and wanted to drag an innocent person down with her. Regarding other witness testimonies, the defense expressed disagreement. They even asked the social worker and teacher during cross-examination why they didn't report the abnormal behavior between Sabrina and Kevin immediately, implying they had failed in their responsibilities and were now trying to cover for their oversight. The defense first focused on attacking Sabrina's character and the credibility of other witnesses. They then called Kevin's sister and close friend to testify, stating that Kevin had indeed cried after his wife gave birth, contrary to claims that he was cold and unresponsive. Simultaneously, the defense lawyer repeatedly emphasized that the prosecution's evidence was circumstantial and speculative. Regarding the insurance money, they argued that Kevin was still a father with children to support, regardless of what happened. How Kevin used the money was his freedom. How could this be used against him? Next, they argued that his frequent communication with Sabrina only indicated a good relationship and regular conversations, not necessarily crossing the boundaries of a father-daughter relationship. Both prosecution and defense had their arguments. Whether Kevin was truly the mastermind behind the murder or an innocent man falsely accused could only be decided by the jury. After 2 days of deliberation on June 11, 2014, the jury found Kevin guilty on all 11 counts. This verdict deeply dissatisfied Kevin's lawyer, who even argued with the judge during the sentencing hearing. During the trial, Lisa's ex-husband, Manoak, stood up to address the court, urging the judge to sentence Kevin. When he called Kevin garbage, the defense lawyer objected. The judge then asked Kevin if he wanted to say anything, to which he declined. However, his lawyer expressed dissatisfaction with the prosecutor's and jury's opinions. Ultimately, the judge sentenced Kevin to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 30 years. In September of the same year, Sabrina was also sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Kevin has since filed multiple appeals for a retrial, all of which have been rejected by the court. After the case, Lisa's youngest daughter, Haley, was cared for by her maternal grandparents, while the older daughter, Megan, lived with her biological father. For these girls, that fateful night not only took their mother, but also their entire family. Over the years, they've shown remarkable resilience, but the pain of losing their mother remains. In a Facebook post on December 15, 2020, Megan wrote, "Even though today is the hardest day since Mom passed, I still smile. Always remember you can get through it." She also shared a photo of Haley on her first day of high school, captioning, "My sister's in high school now. Mom would be so proud if she could see." Every word conveyed her deep longing for her mother. In 2021, Sabrina participated in an interview for an Oxygen documentary while in prison. Besides sharing her realizations during incarceration, she also apologized to her sisters. Sabrina said that at the time of the crime, she was selfish and only thought of herself, but she truly never intended to hurt her sisters. Facing Sabrina's apology, Megan responded in another documentary in 2022. She said, "Sorry" could never compensate for the pain she and her sister endured. Sabrina hadn't just taken their mother. She'd stolen the memories and future they could have created together as a family. Megan, now 25, has earned an associate's degree in criminal justice. She may pursue a related career in the future, using her talents and knowledge to help others in similar situations. With such a positive outlook, Megan is sure to continue shining. Hopefully, she and her sister will always be surrounded by love and good things in the future. The Knofel family case is a heartbreaking tragedy that leaves many lessons and reflections. It shows that behind the perfect facade of a family can lurk terrible secrets. It's also a warning about the consequences of selfish and thoughtless actions. Although Kevin and Sabrina have paid for their crimes, the ones truly hurt are Megan and Haley, two innocent girls who suddenly lost their entire family. However, Megan's story also shows us the power of spirit and hope as she continues to rise and wants to help others. Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more noteworthy stories. See you in the next video.